listen up. Y'all, it's the queen of automation, Meghan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for...
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk about why technology and operations are only good when they work. And hopefully I bring you insights on how to make them work. That's the goal anyway. So today, this is really kind of a cool episode because today I have Mariana Polic. And about a year ago, I had her husband on, and then he was talking about what they were doing with, I think it was Jumpstart Your
Exit.
Yes, Jumpstart Your Exit. And they have both, obviously, a husband and wife team, which is very cool because I'm pretty sure I would kill my husband if I worked with him. They help founders and high growth 8-figure businesses, usually like 7-figure, 8-figure business owners and high growth founders figure out how to exit when they're ready, or at least remove themselves from the daily operations of, running their business, which is exactly what we do. And they're so like, you start with us and then you get to them because we're not quite at the 8-figure mark. But anyway, this conversation I'm really excited about because we have not had a chance to talk yet. So I can't wait for you to introduce yourself and obviously talk about where you guys have gone from a year ago, because it's already changed. The name is now Shift Intelligence, right? So I really want you to tell everybody about that and how the business has changed over the year. Tell us about the landscape, and obviously tell everybody who you are and what you bring to your side of the business.
Well, yes. As you mentioned, Ivan and I do business together. We're partner in business and life. Have been for the past, in business, almost 20 years, and as people, 26. So, not to go without, there are moments where I feel like, we like each other still. So. We work well together. We work well together in our former company, which was a manufacturing business. I'm sure he told you about that. And we exited that company, but not without first having to go through, growing pains from one legacy level business to kind of going all the way to the next level and quadrupling, everything, the revenue, number of employees, number of customers, and all of that. Weathering many storms, and also developing ourselves in the process a lot as leaders, as people, so we can also help our team develop as leaders and as people. And once we exited, it was natural because we were already kind of doing a lot of advising, even though when we were running the company. It was kind of natural for us to shift in that realm and just become solely advisors. And, in the last year, as you said, there's different, the reason why, we went from Jumpstart Your Exit to Shift Intelligence, there's a lot of movement in the business, as different people are looking for different things, and, they're in different stages and things like that. So we realized that, we do help Jumpstart Your Exit, but there's so many other things that need to be done before that, as we very well know. Some exits are successful, some not. You have to kind of go back and forth to the, and even back to the drawing board to reshape how you think you wanted to exit and prepare yourself, whether you want to sell it or just exit operations. So Shift Intelligence is basically our method that we utilized in our company, developed it. Ivan is a creative in this, partnership. He creates different things, and he creates frameworks. So that's one of the most important, if not the most important frameworks to Shift Intelligence, which is basically preparing you how to have awareness to understand where you are, and then shift before, as the website says, shit hits the fan. And prepare yourself in the best possible way. To remove from operations, and then eventually build a team that helps you. Basically, what you do on the other side of the equation.
Yeah. So I always love talking to people like yourself, like you and Ivan, because you're the step after they work with us, right? Most of the time people are coming to us and they're, 600,000, pushing 700, pushing 7 figures. and they're still spending all of their time doing everything and down in the weeds and working on their business, running all the ops. The business is running them instead of the other way around. And what I tell them when we talk and we have these conversations about where do they want to be in 5 years? What's the plan? Like, do you plan on selling this? Do you plan on giving it to your kids? Do you plan on, and they have no systems or processes in place, or very little, or ones that aren't working and that are broken. And I'm like, okay, well, you can't even get to the next point where you're talking to someone like an Ivan or Marina because all of the stuff behind the scenes is broken. It's not working. If you are still involved in the day-to-day operations of your business that much and that heavily, there's no way that you're going to be able to talk to someone like yourself to be able to move and exit. So we try to set people up for success and get them to the point where they can take that and then grow. And then when they're ready, talk to someone like yourselves, which is really, really hard. And the other part of things, the reason that I love what I do, and I have a feeling you're going to agree, and this is probably partially why you love what you do as well, is that by the time you get to this point in your career, your business, whether you're working for yourself or someone else, you're craving, I hate this, work-life balance, right? Like, I don't call it work-life balance because I don't believe in it. I think it's one life. We all have one life. You can't separate it. You can't clone yourself. If we could, we'd all be bazillionaires and there'd be 50 of us. But by the time they get to this point in their career where they need me or they need you, they are their, work-life integration, they're stuck. They've hit this plateau and they are burnt out, or they're almost burnt out, or they're starting to feel like, okay, I don't know what to do next. And that's a sucky, shitty feeling, right? Like, that's horrible. And I've been trying to, it's one of the reasons I started this podcast, is to get more awareness so that people who are either just starting out their businesses or even, slowly growing, maybe they haven't hit that point yet, start putting systems and processes in place now. Start removing yourself from the business now. Start automating. Start doing this stuff so that you're not working 75, 85 hours a week. Yeah. The sooner you begin to do it, the easier it is going to be when you get to the point where you are ready to exit, because you've already kind of done it. And that doesn't mean it's never going to change, but I can't even imagine if somebody were to get to your point where they're having a conversation with you and your husband and they're like, oh yeah, we run our business off spreadsheets. Cool. Like, what do you even say to that? You're like, awesome. So you need to go back over here 10 years ago and fix this and then come talk to me. What do you do in that situation? Like, how do you help them?
Well, first of all, there are signs of that are kind of letting you know that you're on the wrong path, if you will. And many of us as business owners, we feel responsibility. We feel responsibility to the business itself, to the people that are in there, to ourselves to succeed. People are different. They have different motivations. But once you feel like there are things like, okay, your sleep is not that great. Your health is kind of, you either gaining some weight or you are kind of, blood pressure going up, things like that. If you have a partner, husband or wife, they are kind of starting to be short with you. Expectations are rising because you're not there as much. Your kids are like, well, dad, you missed, or mom, you missed my last function or something like that. The team is kind of starting to be disengaged. These are all the signs that you are overly controlling everything and that you cannot let go and that you're already carrying too much. Once you notice signs, it is absolutely okay to, call somebody, whether it's you, whether it's us, whether it's anybody else who can kind of give you an assessment from the almost like a perspective of a fly on the wall, somebody who's not in it with you, and tell you, hey, you know what, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And just admit to yourself that you started carrying too much and that is exceeding your capacity. So you either stretch your capacity, which a lot of times it's not the case, or you include others who can help you on that, level of growth. So, I mean, it's and then, on the other hand, you have like a total abandonment and abstination of the function. I'm not even there. I have people, they're doing whatever, like you said, we have spreadsheets. So that's, absentee business owner, it is a kind of a dream for a lot of us, but it's never possible to that extent. Yes, you can be not as involved, but it is still, if your passion is gone, though, you better exit. You don't even have to be an absentee owner. So it's nice to, have everything. I mean, okay, who's actually preparing the spreadsheet? People, how is your team? Are they doing a great job? Because I always say, you can have the best systems in the world. If you don't have great people to support those systems, build them, sustain them, update them, you as good. I actually wrote a post yesterday on LinkedIn. It's your systems are just as good as their binder on the shelf or a file on the computer.
Exactly. And you can have the best systems in the world. And I think the other thing too is like messaging is huge, right? And you have the best systems in the world. And if your messaging is crap, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. Like the words are the most important part. But going back to you said something really key that I want to jump back to, talking about people who there's two sides to this coin. You can be a business owner who is so overly involved where you're micromanaging everything and you're just in this that it just makes everybody uncomfortable, your team, everything. And it doesn't work because there's only one of you and there's only 24 hours in the day and you just can't do it all. You just can't. And then the opposite side of that, and sometimes I feel like I fall in this bucket, and it's not that I don't like, and mostly I fall into this bucket sometimes of over delegating. Because for me, with my ADHD brain, sometimes I feel like over delegating is the only way that I can get stuff done consistently. I don't do it with everything, but there are a few certain things here and there where I'm just like, oh my God, you don't want me doing this, because it's one of those things where my hyper focus in my brain will go so far down the rabbit hole that I will just get sucked into that. It's like, nope, no. So if you're like that, if you're a person like that, where you get really hyper focused on certain parts and aspects of your business, I highly recommend that you try to delegate those out, because that will also suck you down the wrong path, right? You still need to be here. You still need to be the leader. You need to be the person steering the ship and running and helping your team. Like you said, helping your team grow. If your team is uncomfortable or not feeling supported, and the ship's going to sink, right? And I love it when I see founders who fully admit to themselves when they're like, yeah, I obviously don't give a shit about this business anymore, right? Like I'm just done. I'm tired. I'm done. You know what? That's awesome. That's actually better for the company. It's better for the team. It's better for whatever you're working on. Just either, figure out a way to cut your ties amicably and move on. And we're not talking about, when Mariana and I say this, we're not talking about like silent investors and stuff like that. That's not what we're talking about. If you're silently investing and you're one of somebody like that, that's totally different than being a founder who's built a business from the ground up and has hit this wall of indifference. That's totally different. Go out there and invest in all the companies you want. Go for it. That's totally different, because you're investing in somebody else's baby. But when your baby is no longer your baby anymore, you definitely need to talk to someone. Even if it's not one of us, or one of our teams, just talk to, and it sounds crazy, talk to a business coach or find some sort of mentor or somebody that you can talk to just to bounce ideas off of, right? It's so lonely when you get to that point in your career. Even though you could be surrounded by hundreds of thousands of people, it's so lonely sitting up on that, sitting up here. It just really is. Sometimes there are days where you feel like there's no one to turn to. There are plenty of communities out there. There are plenty. Message me on LinkedIn. I'll talk to you. Come on my podcast. We'll have a conversation. I'm just kidding. But there, I can't even imagine, because I feel like our worlds, even though we do very similar things in portions of how we work with people, they're so totally different, because it's different stages of money life, the people who you're dealing with, where the people I'm dealing with. And I can't even imagine how those people get to that point, and what do you do? It's a whole set of different problems when you get to 8 figures. Right? It's a totally different ball game when you're dealing with that.
You would think, but not necessarily. It's like you still have, you know, you still have the burden of responsibility. Obviously,
Mm,
it's much bigger when there's more at stake, when you have more
right.
people, when there's, like more pressure to create profits, and there's more people, and then there's more responsibility. But you will be surprised, some of the problems, some of the mindset of the founders, and then also some of the issues that come between the headbutting of the team and the founders. It's pretty similar. It's just that the high stakes
Mm,
are, the stakes are higher, and then you also have to kind of approach it with more um, sensitivity, and also with, get crafty as an advisor,
yeah.
because you're working with, high level individuals who, seen it all, done it all, they move in different circles and things like that. So you do really need to be, as an advisor, on your toes, which I love, because every time we're working with a higher level individual, that's for us also keeping us on our toes, and we're getting better. And we're coming up with different things and searching for information, and connects different in our brain. But
Yeah.
it's the problems are and across industries also. I mean, the
Yeah.
overdependent business is the overdependent business on the founder. Whether it's 6-figure, 8-figure, or 20.
Yeah, I find, and it's funny because we don't necessarily niche down in the sense that we can work with e-com versus manufacturing versus, doing operations for all of these different types of businesses. We're strategic problem solvers, right? So it's not necessarily about the industry per se, even though they do, yes, have different problems. Coming at it from an operations and technology standpoint, for me, it's really the same. It's different types of
Right.
tech, but whatever. But coming at it from what you were just saying, from a mentality standpoint, more money, more problems. What's the song? More money, more problems. Right? I mean, that's really what it is it's the same
It
mentality,
is.
but you're dealing with bigger numbers, right? And
Mhm.
so the stakes, like you said, are higher, which I think is crazy. Like it's funny. And the only person that I really know personally, well, that's not true. Now that I say that. So Darren Mass in Brandville, he exited his telecom company, and it's hilarious to listen to him tell some of the stories. Like it's funny, but when you said at the end of the day, being a business owner, and you sit back and you go, it's not funny. Because when you hear his stories, like they're funny, like he's telling them humorously. But then when you sit back and you actually listen to what he's saying, and like the emotional like craziness that he went through before like deciding like I don't want to do this anymore. I can't even imagine like how much stress it was on him, on his wife, on his kids, on the rest of the family, just people in your life in general, because it's not just you. Everybody around
Right.
you starts to feel it when you get to that point.
Yep.
Not even just your team, right? Like everyone. Those conversations are interesting. Like I'd love to be a fly on the wall in some of your conversations, because when you get to that point in your life, it's just like everything else. Probably
Yeah.
people are sitting out there listening to us thinking that you and I are crazy. Like, oh, if they're making 8 figures, what's their problem? Well, that doesn't mean anything really at the end of the day. Money is money. It's a tool. You can go make more of it. If you really
Right.
need to, you can go work in a coffee shop. You can go drive a taxi. You can drive Uber Eats. I don't care. Like, or start a different business. Like you can make more money, but sometimes it's not about the money. In fact, it shouldn't be about the money. In my
Right.
opinion, it should be about building a lifestyle you love. Right. And I know from talking with Ivan that you guys have these similar kind of conversations. Like, well, what's the lifestyle that you want? Is this still the lifestyle you want? If it's not, then let's figure out how to change the path.
Yep. Yeah. And when you say, oh, well, it's an 8-figure, what do they have to worry about? Actually, there is, like you said, the money is not
A
the only
lot.
thing, and it's not the only metric. Yeah, there's a human aspect. I mean, you start the company, obviously, we all have different reasons, but the bottom line is we started because we want to prove ourselves out into the world. We want to be free. We want to have that lifestyle. We want to give back to the world in some way. We want to leave a mark. And then, the business starts going well. And then all of a sudden you have a team and they're growing. And it's not anymore about the business. It's not about you anymore, why you started this. You enrolling all these people to, kind of go on the road with you together towards this purpose that was initially only yours, but now everybody else is surrounding you. And so at one point, it's not anymore about money. How much did we make? How much did we lose? Are we cutting costs? It's not about systems anymore. It's about pure human connection. And that especially is seen during crisis. Because when everything is going well, okay, well, yeah, that's great. But the moment something hits, whether it's internal crisis or external, they all look at you as a leader, as an owner, as a founder. They all look at you for certainty. They look for answers. They look for support. They look for all that. And that in those moments, you kind of, do a really deep internal check and realize whether you're cut out for this or not. Because if it's just about business and it's just about money, then you're not going to care. You're going to be like, oh, well, we're going to just cut some cost and we're going to weather the storm. Yeah, go back to work. That's not going to work long term. But if you really work, the on yourself, that in those terms, in those situations, you get in front of your team, you give them, even when you are not certain yourself, but you still make an effort to give them certainty and support. And yes, we're here together. Yes, it's not easy. I hear you, but we'll make it. That's when it becomes way more about business, but it becomes about humanity and human connection and creating something in the world that is actually making a difference on a higher consciousness level, rather than just, that's what we talk about, conscious founders, and I know some people are like, well, what does that mean? Well, that means that you're looking, to be a wholesome leader.
People who actually give a shit. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I love that. Yes.
I mean, really, at the end of the day, people who actually give a shit, not just there to, like being an entrepreneur, when you get to that point, when you get to the level she's talking about, running a business with teams of even just 10 people, 20, you are now responsible for their livelihood.
Right.
Okay. So the stress of just being an entrepreneur is now times 10 or 20 or 50 or however many people you have. Because when shit hits the fan, if you can't fix it, you now just put 10 other people out of a job and their livelihoods and their families. And the stress is real. Like, managing people is an art form. That's all I can say. Like, managing people is not for the faint of heart. It's not for people who, you have to really consciously choose that. Now, I've chosen, like, we are not going to be more than 5 people, like, internally, like our actual team, because I don't want that stress, right? But I had to consciously make that decision because, now we own a CRM. So it's one of those things where I could very easily take this SaaS and, oh, sure, I could just go start running ads, marketing the shit out of it and grow a 50-person team. And no, thank you. Like, that's not the stress that I want at this point in my life. So we're doing it a different way. And I think one of the best parts about this journey that we all take is that we can pick and choose how we make this journey, which I think is really great about what your team is doing, because that's what you're allowing these high growth founders, these people who are stressed out and they're sitting up here. You're allowing them to pick and choose the path that works for them. Like, you're showing them, like, here's the framework, here's how we do this. But at the end of the day, they still get to work with you side by side and pick and choose. And that's the thing that I think that people are so kind of like closed off to. They think that by working with groups like us, that we're going, that like for us, we're going to shove them in a software or a system or tools or processes, and we're going to do it our way. No. At the end of the day, it's about your business, what works for you and what's going to work for your business. And the same thing with you. At the end of the day, when you're working with high growth entrepreneurs and these executives, no, it's not about telling you which path to take. It's about showing you all the options, listening to where you're at, and then making recommendations based on what you're saying to us. And there's so much of that out there. There's so much bad mentorship and bad coaching where you're getting shoved down a path that maybe isn't the right fit for you because people aren't listening to what you actually need them to listen to. And at the end of the day, you don't want to work with me? Fine. You don't want to work with Mariana and Ivan? Fine. But pick someone so that you don't just fall flat on your face and feel like, I don't know, like just like feel like you're drowning in sand or water, because that's what, at the end of the day, what happens. You feel almost like you're drowning because there's so much and there's so much responsibility, and it doesn't have to be. You don't have to do it by yourself. I think that's another thing. Do you see that a lot? Do you see, like, I bet you do at your level, because these are people who are obviously really smart. You have to be somewhat smart to get to that level, right? Like, I say somewhat because I know a few people where I'm like, how did they get there? Like, what are they doing? But anyway, you have to be intelligent in some way to build a business that size, right? You have to be able to put the work in and hustle in the beginning and do all that shit. But do you feel like they're almost afraid? Sometimes I feel like they're afraid. They don't want to admit that they need help, right? They get there because they've done it themselves this whole time, and look at this thing that they built. And if they admit to the world that they need help, then they're weak, which is obviously, you and I know this is not the case.
Right. Well, it's interesting. Some of them, actually, a lot of them would say, I already know what's wrong with my company. There's nothing new that you're going to tell me, So there's that. That's and then they would admit only to needing. Okay, so like if this is the amount of help that they actually need, they will admit to this much, and that's okay.
Yeah.
We start here. I don't know
Baby
if
steps.
you like Friends. Yeah, the Friends, when that episode with Chandler, when he's afraid of getting married, and then Ross is like, okay, let's just put your, and then we'll go
just
over
put
there.
the tux. Here's one shoe, and here's the other shoe. Oh wait, here's your sock.
Yeah, something like
That's
that.
funny.
So it's, yes, you do know what's wrong in your company. Whether if it's a system or people or customers or something like that. But they will say, I've tried everything. Well, did you really try everything? So even if they have one conversation where we show them, first of all, we don't usually do a lot of advising right then and there. We listen and we ask questions. And even that process of them stating it out loud through the questions that we ask them already gives them insight. And then if we offer them one or two perspectives at the end, it's already something different. And usually, to be an entrepreneur, you have to be open-minded. I mean, it's inherent. Even some are less, some are more, but you have to be open-minded. And that moment when that insight penetrates of that they actually do need help, that's when the magic starts. And that's what I love, when they're like, or actually, let's have another conversation, or let's discuss, on the next call. So it's just that kind of meeting them where they are in that moment. Because if you come from the place like, oh, you need a lot of help, you lose them immediately. But if you meet them where okay, great, all of that, amazing. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about all the things that are wrong. Teach us, tell us. So it's I think it's more in those moments. It's more about just creating the human connection and in hearing them out and listening between the lines. That's where it makes them feel like they do want to open up. And if we start with all the problems, it's never going to work. But if we start little by little with, let's solve this first, let's solve that, that's why a lot of our clients, invite us when there's a crisis moment. It's a contentious leadership transition, or number two left all of a sudden, and then you're kind of left dry, or something, whether it's an internal or external. We come in, we help, and then we kind of sit back and we're like, okay, would you like to know how this kind of came about in the first place, this crisis? Well, yeah, but okay, well, it was because this and this, and it's usually too much control, not a great team in place, or some systems are outdated, or as when you work with people, it's if the some of it is outdated, whatever that is, even if it's the software of the founder, you have to step in.
Exactly. And this has been such an amazing conversation. Before we sign off, I'm going to give a pro tip that I bet you agree with. So one of the things, obviously, right, like the queen of automation, I love technology, I love automation, I love systems, I love all the stuff. But one of the things that you cannot and should not, well, you can automate it, but you shouldn't. You should never automate that first call, like discovery call, where you need to listen. Because here's the thing. When you're going back and forth, even if it's a Zoom call or in person, when you're going back and forth with somebody and you're having a live conversation, you can have your form or whatever. They always, everyone always says for your onboarding process, just have them fill out a form and it'll automate. You can do that, but you can't when you're working with somebody at this next level, because what's going to happen is they know this much. Awesome. Great. Can you tell me about that? Like, tell me about, I've had this happen before where they start talking about this much and you're sitting in you're almost like a therapist, right? You just sit there with your pad and you don't say anything. And then what happens is they slowly start to fill the silence with more things. They start to fill the void with more stuff. And as they're talking, then they're like, oh yeah, and when we did this, then this happened. And they start to open up. If you have them fill out a form and send you a form, they will fill out just that question and only that question with as little to no detail as possible. And sometimes you'll get really detailed forms because those people get it. But most of the time you're going to get only that question, short answers, just enough to answer that question and nothing more. In my experience, we do both. So because we're dealing with the technology side of things, we do send them something where we ask about like, what are all your systems, like what are you using right now, and like stuff like that. But then we also have the conversation, have a live conversation. We walk through it all, and as they're talking about all of that stuff, especially when it comes to technology, they remember like 10 or 15 more different things that they're paying for, or like all this stuff that just starts to like come out of the woodwork. And I was like, why are you paying for 22 systems? Like, what are you doing? Anyway, so I love that you said that, because I feel too many people, there's such a thing as over automation, and there's such a thing as overuse of technology when it comes to these kind of things, because you still have to interact and get the human emotion out of them. And you cannot do that. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter how freaking awesome your questions in your form is. You're never going to get that off of a form. You're just not. And you also don't get to see the human emotion on their face as they're talking about like their sales process and how broken it is. They will start to break down, and you'll start to feel the pain that they're feeling. Record it, get a summary, and then use all that. Anyway, well, this has been so much fun. I absolutely love both you and your husband. You guys are amazing. And I've referred a few people already to your way, and I was like, well, that's not where I'm going to be, but you should talk to my friend Ivan, and, had said a few things. So I will continue to do that, because that's the next step after you've met with me. And if you're still feeling miserable, you should go talk to Mariana.
You are amazing. I love everything about you. You're like a soul sister on the level of coffee and and passion and the level of helping. I love your pro tips. So it's been such a fun conversation, and I love what you're doing. And I think it's this pro tip was actually really, 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 really pro.
Yeah, it's very valuable, and I think it's just people. We are so over automated and so full of technology all over the place and AI and everything that people don't talk to people anymore. That's it. You still need to talk to people. In fact, speaking of talking to people, tell everybody where's the best way to find you and contact you, so we can get people that actually reach out to you when they've decided that they're ready.
Right. Well, as you know, we're both on LinkedIn. You can find us there. The website is shiftintelligence.co. There's some goodies there, some free materials, some, exercises that you can download and kind of do like a self-assessment to see where you're at. And, there's a form there to contact as well. So, I love what you do, and everybody that you help. So, let's continue to collaborate.
Yes, 100%. And we'll drop all of Mariana's information in the show notes. So you guys have like direct links, and you can click over, go check out her content. And Ivan's too. Like they have a lot of really great content and resources out there that I feel really help people before. They're doing a great job of setting you up. Like maybe you're not ready yet, but you're kind of almost there. So there's a lot of really great resources out there that they provide, that like the assessments and stuff that will let you know if you're ready to take that next step or not. And you know what? It doesn't hurt to always just reach out and have a kind of like free consultation and free conversation just to find out if you're even at that point. But anyway, that's all for today, everybody. That is a wrap. And remember, technology, operations, all of this stuff that we do, work-life balance, quote unquote, all of this stuff is only good when it works. Build a lifestyle you love, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.